Hey, this is Tiger, and you are in for another cab ride in the Train Sim World 2 universe. Hey AJ, thank you for moderating. How are you doing? You did not expect this question, did you? Tonight we are actually playing in one of the, I think it is safe to say, greatest routes that have ever been made in Train Sim World. The London Commuter DLC, the Brighton Main Line, London Victoria to Brighton. Yeah, I'm doing well, thank you very much. And as always, I would like to start this stream with a service that we get from spawning on foot, and then we can have a look at our train. And since I found out how this happened and how this works, I will look at the service first in the roster. I want to have a service that goes to Reigate, not a service that goes to Brighton. I will tell you why soon. London Victoria to Epsom, London Victoria to... Is there a service that goes to Brighton? No, to Reigate, this one. This one is the one that I was looking for. I have the cursor in, I go out with escape, I explore on foot, and in London Victoria, and I already have the perfect time preset. So why do I think this DLC is one of the greatest? Okay, first to my level. How many hours of playtime? I think it is not so much hours, it is more days. I have to look into my Epic Game Store client thingy. I think they keep track of how much time you invest in one specific game. And since I started playing this game with running freight trains through the sand patch grade in the night, this is something where you can invest a lot of time in, and then it amasses over the time. Why I think Brighton Main Line is the best DLC or the greatest? AJ, do you have any idea why this might be? Not only because we have the London Victoria station here with all its 19 tracks and PIS boards for passenger information systems. We have the red Gatwick Express Electrotar, we have the green and white Southern Electrostar 377, and on the tracks on the other side we even have the blue southeastern Electrostar that usually lives in the Southeastern High Speed DLC. This is the train to Brighton. I was actually looking for the train to Reigate, and this is our train. See, Reigate 1309. That is the one. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. The stream is laggy for you. I hope this will work itself out over time. So you missed what I said about the Brighton Main Line DLC and why it is so great. It is so great because it is huge, because it is complex. There are a lot of different paths that the train can go, from the fast track to the slow track and vice versa. And there is the Reigate side arm And this offers a lot of interesting opportunities for speed profiles, for signal constellations, and there is a huge amount of traffic in this DLC. Much more than on any other DLC that I know, at least. And this, we all know who we owe that, and who we owe for that. It is Joe the Fish, who put all the trains in it, and, well, don't know. He invested a lot of time, lifetime, in this DLC, and it paid. So what are we doing in our train here, since we have bot tagged in? We're turning on all the security devices, that is the Vigilance device, the driver's safety device, and the automatic warning system. And then we can actually sit down, turn on the master key, turn the reverse to neutral, then this annoying sound is the self-test for the automatic warning system. We acknowledge it here with the big yellow buzzer, and then the sunflower comes on, and then we can actually open our doors. Before opening our doors, I want to set my camera in a way that I don't always have to put my head out of the window, and then we open the doors. At the same time, we can look what else we have to set up on this train. The lights. It's quite easy here by putting it to headlights day running. Okay, I can repeat it, but I set up the train first, I guess. Yeah, but there is actually not so much to set up now. The reverser stays in neutral as long as we have the doors open, so do the brakes in the highest notch. And well, we have to wait 30 seconds more, then we can leave the station. And my level, it is not hours, it is days actually. I would have to check the Epic Game Store client for how many days I played this game, and then I may be able to tell you. And since I started playing in the Sandpatch grade and was driving those long services across the grade, this is where it all started. And since then it amassed. Okay, we can close our doors and get ready for departure. Reverse it to forward, the combined traction and brake lever to accelerate. This train has a working cruise control system here. It is a bit, well, I would not say shaky, but I don't trust it very much if it comes to slowing down. But what it can actually do is hold the speed if you are running in an area like here, where you are supposed to keep a quite slow speed, like 20 here in the station area. The trick is, it does not react just by setting the speed and then pressing the button. What you have to do, you might have noticed when I did it just now, is that you have to turn on the button while the throttle is in propulsion mode, while you are applying throttle, and then you push the button, turn it on, the button comes on, and then you have to move this speed set thingy, this switch, and switch it to the aspired speed. This is different from the 377. That was the first safety system, the Vigilance system, that always gives us an alarm when we are not operating any controls for a specified number of seconds. That was the first AWS magnet, giving us a ding sound because we are approaching actually a green signal, and the sunflower came off. I'm turning off the cruise control now, and will be doing most of the rest. Not with the cruise control, but with my hands. Still, I want to show you this magnificent view when we are crossing the Thames. This power plant, or whatever this is lit at night with red lights, and as a master reward you even get colored lights for it. Again, those sounds you will hear a lot. The ding sounds, that is obviously a computerized sound now. Was usually a bell, and we will look into the theory as soon as we are stationary at our first stop. This is Battersea Park, a very nice station at the brink of this route. I think the track that goes to the left here is no longer in use nowadays. We're in a 45 limit here, but going downhill soonish, so we are actually crossing this very wide amount of track with our 377 Electrotar, and obviously we have to be careful not to speed when we are going down there. And you see how many trains there are on this track every time a train. What for? That means on the cap, it means that we have a train that has 4 cars. Those trains ride as 4-car, 8-car and 12-car trains, and so that you know how long your train is. We're approaching a yellow now, that means the next signal is red. That's why we did not get a bing sound but a boop sound, and we had to acknowledge that and have to slow down a bit when closing in to Clapham Junction, what is one of the busiest stations in the United Kingdom, as I have been told. Now, this is unique to this train or the other Electrostars. Or maybe, I can't remember at least another train that has that. It is quite easy, you just switch around some plastic covers so that they show the correct number. Later on we will couple 2 of those trains, so that we start out with a 4-car train, and then we will couple it to another 4-car train, and then we will have an 8-car train, and so we will have to switch those thingies around. Sliding into our stop position. Longer or shorter trains? Well, I think longer trains, especially on the freight trains, are more fun. But again, variety, the charm is always in variety. And I definitely enjoy it when services have elements like coupling and something like that. Always check on the platform before you open your doors. Then get the reverser to neutral and your combined power handle into the 3rd brake notch, so that your train is secured, and then you can open the doors. And since I promised some theory when we are at the first stop, here we are. And this allows me to activate the service indicator that I always forget, and then the presentation. If there is any. Yeah, there is any. Okay, British signaling system is one of the most ingenious. What's that yellow light on the bottom left for? Great, I will explain this after this theory thingy, okay? So that I do not have to switch back to my train. British signaling system, one of the most ingenious signaling systems in the world. You have a track, and obviously sometimes it is necessary to stop the train because there is another train ahead, or there is danger up ahead, or whatever. So the most simple signaling system is putting a red light at a certain point in the track. The problem is that you cannot stop your train just by eventually seeing the light and reacting to it, because it takes too much time to stop your train. So a stop and danger signal alone does not do the trick. So to reassure you that you can go on without the risk that you're running into a stop signal, you can put clears in front of them. So that is still very basic and very simple. And to make it easier for you to react to a red signal, you can put between the greens and the reds a yellow, a caution signal. So if you're just running from the left to the right on our track and you're running on greens, you can always think, okay, everything is well. I have to adhere to the speed limit of the track, but I don't have to be concerned about traffic in front of me. And as soon as you run into a yellow, then you know, okay, the next one will be red. I have to slow down, I have to drive cautiously. And since you need to have road or track knowledge, you know where the next signal is, or at least you're supposed to know it, and then you can plan for being slow enough to stop at this signal. To make it even a bit more relaxing for the drivers, on some routes, most of the routes, and especially the routes that we are playing on today, is a route with 4 different signals. In this sequence, you're running on greens as long as everything is okay, and then all of a sudden you run into a double yellow. We already have seen that with our short trip that we have done so far. The first thing that you encounter when you are closing in on the red signal is the double yellow. This is called a preliminary caution, or a warning in former times, and it tells you that the next signal will be at yellow and the second signal will be at red, so you can plan ahead. And this is it, most of all. This is the essential thing of the British signaling system, and I think it works well, and it works like a charm. All those signals where you can go on are also called proceed signals, because in opposite to the stop signal you can proceed, even if you have to be cautious here, and so on. Since sometimes there are bends and other obstacles in the track where you cannot see the signal from very far ahead, you can get banner repeaters. They look like this, actually like a black box with a white circle and then this bar in front, in the middle of the white circle, and they tell you about the aspect that the signal that is up ahead but you cannot see yet is on at the moment. So if you're approaching a red signal and you see this banner repeater, you know the bar is crossed in front of you. You mustn't go on that signal. Obviously you can pass the banner repeater, but you have to be prepared to stop at the red signal. While as for all proceed signals, may they be green or double yellow or single yellow, you have this indication on the banner repeater telling you the bar is up, you can pass. You see, those bars are like the old semaphore arms. If they are horizontal, you may not pass. If they are open, you might pass. Since you cannot know if this is a green or a yellow that is indicated with that, there are also 3-way banner repeaters that can show this. So a banner repeater of that kind that warns you about a green signal up ahead will be not on a white circle, but the circle will be green. So that you know that what you're approaching or what you're seeing is a banner repeater that can show this green aspect. It will have a plague underneath with this symbol, these 2 white semicircles divided by a black line in the middle. Whereas others, where this symbol is missing, they cannot display the green aspect, so you still cannot know. If you're approaching this, you still cannot know, are you approaching a green or a yellow? But if you approaching a banner repeater that has this signal on its plate and it is white instead of green, then you know, okay, I'm approaching a yellow, not a green. And then these two are in the rule book, but I have not seen them in the game yet. You can see they are a little bit different. The left side of the bar has this tail or snake tongue thingy cut out in it, and those show you that a signal is at caution here. So if the bar is horizontally in the on position and it has this cutout in the end, then you're not approaching a red but a yellow signal. Whereas when it's open, you're approaching a green signal. I think those banners only work with signals that can only show either green or yellow indications, not red indications, because not every signal can show a red indication. Some signals can only show a green and yellow indication. This is signaling, and to help, yeah, I don't know, I've found them in the rule book that I read in preparation for this stream, but I have not seen them in the game, and I don't know if they are widely used. Whereas this green thingy, this is something that you will see in the game later on. Yeah, to help the driver actually recognize what is coming up, and to warn the driver especially about upcoming yellows and reds, you have magnets in the track, and those magnets give the train an impulse, and the impulse differs from where it is a green or another, and the train reacts by making a sound. So it makes ding, or a computerized ding that we heard already in our trip before, when the signal is clear, and a boop sound if it is yellow or if it is red. And if the train gives you a boop sound because it is running on a non-clear signal, then you have to acknowledge it. You have to press this yellow buzzer button within, I think, like 2 seconds or something, and then the sunflower comes on. If you fail to do that, then the train will apply a penalty brake, and this is actually something that reminds us of PZB 1000 Hertz. 1000 Hertz magnets give your train an impulse, and the train wants you to hit the Wachsamkeitstaste, the vigilance key, within 2.5 seconds, otherwise it will apply a penalty brake. Then in PZB and use the 1000 Hertz monitoring, we don't have anything like this in the bridge system, but the first half is more or less the same. The train wants to make sure that the driver saw the caution, otherwise it will stop the train to prevent worse. And this is obviously the same here. Even if you're running up on ahead, you have to acknowledge. And this is, at this point, all you have to do. And there is one possibility how the dispatcher can allow a driver to pass a red signal without changing the signal to a yellow or a green. He can display those 2 white dots underneath or next to the red signal, and then you are allowed to pass the red signal, but with extreme caution. You always have to drive in a way that you can stop if there is danger up ahead. When do you get something like this? Especially when you have to couple to another train, and the train is already on the track. This is why the signal is red, and to merge the 2 trains, one train obviously has to come to the other in the block that the other one already occupies, and then he usually gets one of those signals. You are allowed to go into the block for coupling, but be careful. We will see this later on in the stream. Then there are things that are a bit of a speciality. Sometimes you get flashing yellows. The rule book that I've cited here tells you a flashing yellow aspect means facing point at a junction ahead are set for a diverging route with a lower speed than that for the straight route. What is that? I painted it here. We have here a route and there is a diverging route for the straight route. What happens, for example, and this is the example that the rulebook gives you, there is a red signal on the diverging route. That means you have a yellow signal here, and this yellow signal has a thing what is a direction indicator. This is very straightforward. You have your signal, and on top of it, it tells you where you will be going, and this tells you you will be going right. If there are more than one diverging route, then you can actually have more of those indicators on top of each other, like a fan, and the appropriate one is lit to show you on which diverging route you will be going. So this is very, very charming, I think. Yeah, and then if you have this yellow with diverging, then you can get first a flashing yellow in front of it, and in front of the one flashing yellow, single flashing yellow, a double flashing yellow, and before that you're running on greens. So if you run into flashing yellows, then you know you will be diverging, and when diverging you will be slower than on the straight route. The flashing yellows are to be acknowledged as well. And then another thing for flashing yellows, it does not need to be necessarily a red signal here on the diverging route, but as we have seen here in the rulebook, you can have a route with a lower speed limit. On this route you are allowed to go 90. Those signs tell you about the track speed limit. They look a bit like road speed limits in Germany, but they display a miles per hour. Just on a side note, if you see a sign that has a white number on a black background, then it shows you the allowed speed in kilometers per hour. What happens rarely in the United Kingdom, it happens only in the areas where the trains that come from France are traveling, like in the southeastern high-speed DLC. But normally black number, white background, miles. And if you see a sign like this with another sign that has an arrow on top of it, then it tells you that this speed applies to the diverging route to the right. Sometimes you get warned about incoming speed reductions with a sign that looks like this, a triangular sign with the respective speed shown, and it warns you so that you can get ready to bring down your speed so that you do not get surprised. These things are called Morpeth boards, named after a smallish city just north of Newcastle, I think, and they have a station, and in front of the station a very, very famous curve in the track. And in the late 60s and 80s there had been train accidents because drivers just missed the reduction in speed limit that there was and went through the bend too fast, and the train derailed. So to warn drivers about speed limits that are up ahead, you can get those signs. They are not always there. They are especially there if there is a harsh reduction in speed limit. It does not always need to be for the diverging route. Without the arrow it can be for the straight route as well. And the thing is, you have to acknowledge them with your acknowledge button, because they put a magnet like they put on in front of signals in front of those boards, and they are always on, and the train wants you to tell the train that you saw the caution and that you will be acting accordingly. So in a situation like this, where on the straight route there is a limit of 90 and on a diverging route there is a lower limit like 70 here, you can have a green here and a green here, so no traffic ahead, but still a sequence of double flashing yellow, single flashing yellow, and a diverging yellow here. So even if there is not a red signal here, this can just help you not to miss the speed limit here. And you have, as always, to acknowledge the yellows and the moped board and the yellow again, obviously not the green. This is this. Easy and charming, in my opinion. So, the yellow light that you were asking me about, that one, that is the light for the line indicator that tells us that we are connecting with our third rail for the energy. The electrical current that we need for propulsion comes from the third rail. You can see it here. We have one rail, two rail, third rail. Those are more bluish and dark, and this is quite light here in what we see. We mustn't forget that we have to go on a bit. Close the doors. Forward traction. Yeah. And those third rails where the power comes from, they don't run continuously all the time, but sometimes there are breaks in it. Sometimes they switch from one side to the other, and this light tells you that you are at the moment connected and that you are drawing power from the third rail. And if for what reason ever we lose contact to the power source, then this light will come off. So, approaching a green, ping, ding, bell sound, not a horn sound. We are still in a speed limit of 60 from in front of the station. And look how many trains there are on this track, one after the other. There are more than 1,000 services for those 377 Electrostars in this DLC. This is just great. I actually made it a habit to acknowledge the ding as well. Then this is the red Gatwick Express. So you don't get into trouble with your vigilance control. Now we will be getting, see the 70 sign, can accelerate a bit. Actually pass this second Electrostar there. And at the same time a third one is going through the gap. Nice. You can see on top of this signal, for example, the indicators that are off, so that we know we are going the straight, if not narrow, track. You can see the magnets that make those sounds in the track. They are black or grayish and just in the middle of the track. Like here. Whitish thing, did you see it? There was again the speed sign allowing us to go 70. What I read, for keeping your speed to a certain limit, you would not apply minimal amounts of power as soon as you drop 1 or 2 kilometers below your limit, but you would wait until you have lost, did I say kilometers per hour? Miles, obviously. If you have lost like about 5 miles, and then put the throttle back to max to go back to your intended speed, so that you have some kind of a sawtooth accelerating. At this point the cab gets shaken heavily. This is one of the green banner repeaters, see? Three-way repeaters. That announces a green. At the moment we are on the fast track. This is why we're always going on the side of the stations where the trains usually do not stop. But just pass, while the 2 tracks on the left are the slower track. You can see the trains sitting in the station on the lower or slower track. While we are passing on the fast track. It is, and it is quite huge. If you drive to Brighton, you drive for 1 hour or even more. And I especially like that the fast track and the slower tracks are intertwined, and some of the services just switch around from the fast track to the slower track, like we will do soon. And then there is a part where the fast track actually goes a different way than the slower track, through different tunnels, and then they merge again. So there are some stations that are only on the fast track and some that are only on the... No, I don't think that on the fast track there are stations, but on the slow track there are stations that are not reached by the fast track. I love them. Then there are a lot of... So now I let my speed drop, because I know that there is a reduction in track speed limit to 60 at the entrance to the next station. We're getting a double yellow. Usually this would not be a problem for me, for slowing down more than the speed limit that I know that is ahead, because there will still be the single yellow. But you will soon see why I am slowing down, because not only the 60 here tells us to go 60, but also there is a single yellow but an indication to the left. We have to go sharp to the left, and you can see it here, 30 to the left. To the left we have to be down to 30, not 60. Around the bend we couldn't see that really well. So we are running still under yellow. That problem with the yellow is that we always have to prepare for a red one that is somewhere, and we can't really see it because this train is sitting there, and because of the bend and because of our limited view. So will the signal be red? That must be somewhere. Now it already turned to yellow, so we can actually go on. Turn to double yellow. The third rail, yeah, you have to be extremely cautious with the third rail, and apart from that it is not advisable to walk on tracks at all, because there are trains and they are fast. But yeah, don't do that. Don't walk on rails. Leave them to the trains. And never ever touch a third rail. Here you can see the third rail switching from the left to the right. We are running on yellows. You can see the indicator sending us to the left. A yellow here means that the entrance signal to the station is still at red. You can see it now. And now it switched to green, so we can go on. And we can just let the train coast into East Croydon station. Yep, the third rail can switch. And the train has a chute to pick up the power from the third rail on both sides of the train. Somehow my game is a bit laggy. And I opened the door on the wrong side. That is bad. Don't do that. You have the door controls on both sides. And don't get confused. This is looking from the front at your train, and this is sitting in the train. Did I lock my doors again? Oh, that is bad. Don't get confused with the third rail. Door controls here. You have 3 different buttons that all of them open the doors. There is the STO release, the all release, and the door release. And the STO release is a funny thing. Sometimes your train is too long for the platform. Then you don't want to open doors that do not have a platform in front of them. And for that you have the STO release. When you use the STO release, then the train will connect to a MITRAC, I think it is called, a system that has the GPS data that knows where your train is, and that has in the database all the lengths of the platforms and the stopping points. So the system tells the train that it can only open a certain number of doors, and then it opens those doors. Yeah, well, it depends on the provider, on the railroad company, and the Southern have this green whitish livery, and the red one is the Gatwick Express. And this is a freight train. There are not many freight trains on this DLC. There should be more, maybe. Maybe I should slow down a bit, since I was told there is a red ahead, but we can see that it has already switched to yellow, and the yellow is telling us that we are diverging. And diverging means we have to slow down. By the way, with all those yellows in front of diverging and we have to slow down, actually it would be quite nice to have flashing yellows in front of those, wouldn't it? I think it is a situation where flashing yellows would be appropriate, because we have a diverging track, and on the diverging track we have a slower speed than on the main speed. And if we had the flashings, then we would know that the speed limit is incoming. Now we have to go quite slowly across this junction, and then later we can go back to 60 here. But first, the train has to pass fully. And since we do not have a roadrunner, we have either to look back to see how long the train is, or to memorize it. Because we are always driving this train, we know how long it is and when we can actually accelerate. So the red one in the game is the 387, the Gatwick Express, and not the 377, the Southern service. Begging for the green. And now we are actually going for a stop in Purley, platform 4. Can hear some sirens. Not going faster than 60. Yellow up ahead anyway. Switch to green. And in Purley, this will be our last stop on the main line, and then I think we will be going for Reigate already. Approaching Purley, approaching the platform, aiming for 30 to 25 miles when we actually reach the platform. So you have a brake that allows you to apply 1, 2 or 3 notches. What is a very comfortable, a brake that is very comfortable to handle. And it is quite forgiving, so the whole train is a train that is quite forgiving to drive. Still not in position. Now we are. Now we can open the doors. This is the red model that we were talking about, the Gatwick Express, passing on the fast lane while we have to sit on the slow lane and wait for our passengers to board. You can see a train coming up from the junction. That is a funny junction up ahead. He goes to the left and then goes underneath our track, passes the track or runs along with us and then just vanishes to the other side. So, I kicked my camera out of the way because I wanted to get both trains starting at the same time. So if we are lucky, this train will be going... Oh, it will be going to the left, I guess. Then we won't see it again. Now we have to stop at Coulsden South before we go to Reigate. So it was just the second but last stop on the main line. Because I think we won't be stopping at Redhill. But anyway, we will be told. Just try to coast into the station. Sometimes you see a little white diamond sign on the left of the track. That tells you this is a good point to start coasting and you will reach your station without wasting energy. The AWS magnet. Introducing the green one here. Those other magnets that look like grids. Those are the magnets for the TPWS system, Train Protection and Warning System, and they are supposed to stop you if you run a red signal or are going too fast in certain areas. So they will apply an imminent penalty brake. They are like the 2000 Hz magnets in German PZB. I know we haven't talked about 2000 Hz magnets in PZB so far. This is because if you are doing everything correctly in PZB, you will never know that 2000 Hz magnets exist. Because they are always the enforcer if you do something terribly wrong. Then the 2000 Hz will strike, and so the TPWS magnet.
Points may be clamped or removed without warning. Short and long. That's this station.
What happened to my doors? Did I lock them again by mistake? Looks like it. So Coulsden South is one of the stations that you can only reach when you're going on the slow lane, not on the fast lane, because the fast lane is on the other side here. On the other side of the tree line. Can we find it again? I don't know. I've already lost it. Out of view. But we will see it again, because when we are driving out of South Coulsden, or Coulsden South, we will see the fast line on the right on top of us, and then it will actually pass across our slow line on a bridge. So if we are lucky, the train is still there that we saw earlier. Maybe I lost those precious seconds and it is already far ahead. Seems like it. You don't find the creepy passenger. Maybe she stayed at Dresden. Now you can see the fast lane on the right. The red signal belongs to the fast line. Yeah, well, actually the girls look really similar in Germany, in the UK, in the United States. But if you spotted the creepy one in Dresden, then maybe she stayed there. There you can see another train coming across the bridge on the fast lane. Now on our line, our speed limit got increased to 90, so we can actually apply throttle. And we will be going into what is called Merstham, I think, tunnel. A tunnel that was the Vigilance system. A tunnel that is exclusive for the slow lane, that is not so slow at the moment. I think this tunnel has a sign for its name. Merstham Tunnel, yes. As soon as we pass this signal, you can prepare for stopping at Merstham, what is almost directly after the end of the tunnel. So I'm applying some brakes already, since we're running downhill. Cannot feel it properly, but I can feel it. And see what we have up ahead there. A flashing yellow. A flashing double yellow, to be exact. We have to acknowledge it with the AWS acknowledge button. And don't need to worry about the flashing yellow at the moment, because we have to stop anyway. But as we have seen in the introduction at the beginning of the stream, this warns us about... Yes, this finally warns us about an upcoming speed restriction on the diverging route. You missed it when I said flashing yellows. We'll see. But to recapitulate, what do we have to expect after those two flashing, the double flashing yellows? We have to expect a single flashing yellow and then a steady yellow with a divergence indicator. And then on the diverging route, either a red light or a green light. Works both. In both cases, we have to slow down. And this is what the flashing yellows are warning us about. Close the doors. Oops, that was too far. And let's see if we will see the single flashing yellow. A moped board for 30 in both directions, both diverging directions. But at first we can just apply power normally and go back to our line speed. Because we are good for at least 2 more seconds. There is the single flashing yellow. Magnet, acknowledge. And the next one will be a steady yellow, so it can't hurt to go on the brakes a bit. And now we can see it's yellow and we go to the left. The moped board told us that it will be 30 and we're going off. Maybe it was not the direction that we're talking about now. So we will have to be on the lookout what speed applies to the divergence to the left. This is 30 to the right. This is not ours. We are going to the left. That's what the indicator said. This is 30 to the left, but on the track next to us, and there is 30 to the left. That is the one that applies for our train. And we're going to the left. And you can see the signal is green, at least now, even though we passed a yellow one. Maybe it switched. Maybe it was green all the time. Both cases correct. So, now Redhill. I've been proved wrong again. We're stopping here, we're not just running through. And the doors. Now what is the R on top of the green telling us? It is telling us that we are set to go to Reigate, and this tells us, this time without an indicator, like the feather that we usually have, that we are not going straight ahead, what is good because you can't go straight ahead, but we could go this way and then along what is the main line, or to the left, what is the diverging route. But no, we are going to Reigate, and this is this track here, and now we are set to go there. We get told by this R on top of the green light. Timetable in this DLC is quite lenient, I think. You have to wait more because you are usually a bit early, but this does not hurt at all. 10 seconds before departure, we can close the doors. Boom. Reverser. Brakes. And go. Again, diverging. We need to know the speed for the diverging route, and it tells us go 15. It's a bit hidden behind the platform, but nonetheless it is the speed that we are supposed to keep when going here across those switches. And diverging. Next allowed speed will be 30. But first the whole train has to pass the sign. It takes a while when we're only going 15 miles. But I think that's it. So we can accelerate to 30 first. Now we can accelerate to 70. If you have two numbers on a speed sign, then the lower, well, the one that is lower on the sign but has the higher value is usually for passenger trains, and the upper one that is usually the lower value is for freight trains. Sometimes there are some letters on the board indicating that the speed limit applies only for yeah. The dog sneezed. Sometimes there are letters to tell you that the speed limit applies to specific trains only, like high-speed trains or EMUs. So we're running in on a double yellow. That means most probably we have to stop at Reigate, what is not really surprising because it is the destination for our service. Coasting in. Closing in on the single yellow. There is not actually, as far as I know at least, a rule that you have to reduce your speed to a certain value when you pass a single yellow. Just have to be able to stop at the next signal. The rest is up to you. But I usually don't go faster than 30 or max 40. Unless I know for sure that the next signal is far ahead. That was the acknowledge for the red. And we are set for our last stop, Reigate. And here we are.
This is a safety announcement. It is not permitted
First service
to cycle, skateboard, or rollerblade within the station building.
completed. Still have to wait for the passengers to get out and in, and then we will get our reward. Yeah, that's that. You could stay at Reigate now. I remember that in the forums people complained that actually in the real life there is a lot of more town of Reigate around here and not only trees, but I am very happy that they built this side route to Reigate, because you saw it was a very interesting setup for switching fast lane, slow lane, and then the flashing yellows are only on the services that go to Reigate, as far as I know. At least I have not seen any on a service that runs on the main line only. What I wanted to do tonight for a second route is another route with a 377, but starting in the south. Actually, I wanted to show something that I built to actually understand this DLC and the route a bit more. Don't know if you can see it, if this is big enough. It is an Excel file, and I tried to model the DLC with all its lines. You can see all those lines here in the Excel file are track, and there are red numbers and blue numbers for speed limits and signal codes, and it is read in the way that always the number on the left on the line when you are driving on the line applies to you. So if you're driving from the bottom to the top, from Brighton to Victoria, then the blue numbers on the left apply to you, and the other way around when you're driving from London Victoria to Brighton from top to bottom, then the red numbers on the, if you look the other way around, left side apply to you. And so you can actually see how the paths are connected, and that it is really a complex thingy. Unfortunately, there are these artifacts here now in my thing. They are not always there. I don't know how they came in. And then I tried to keep track of where those side connections are going. And you can see, for example, here is Coulsden South, where I said the fast lane is going away a different route than it is passing us back here, and we went after Redhill to Reigate and not further ahead towards Brighton, where we reconnect with the fast lane again. And this really shows how, unfortunately, these artifacts are destroying it a bit, but this shows how complex this DLC is, and that really makes it great in my opinion. What we are doing now, we are driving the other way. We are not starting in Brighton, we are starting in Preston Park. There is a search function, by the way, and knowing that the services that start at Preston Park in the DLC actually originate in Littlehampton, we can look for a service here, and I wanted this service here, Littlehampton to London Victoria, because this is one of the services where you drive a 4-car train first and then connect it to another 4-car train, and then you run as an 8-car train the rest of the way. You're going into a lurk for the second service. What does that mean? So here we are, setting up the train as usual. To open the doors you have to turn the master key on to put the reverser in neutral at least, and then you can open the doors. Passengers can go in, but that was too fast. We don't have to load passengers here. The service asks us to go on just straight ahead, but not without the safety systems turned on, and not without the lights turned on. Ah, I see. So no chatting from your side. get the camera in a position where we can see it. We can use it for simulating our head out of the window view. And then we can start this train. We're starting from a track that comes from Littlehampton, so this is a bit of a side track. We have to go back on the main track through switches. The switches have a limit of 40, as was announced on this speed board. Not that there's a problem at the moment, because we are still accelerating. Again, next switch also 40. Oh, we're not even going over it. So we are back on the main line. Main line speed here is, it is not written on the board, we have to know that because of our track knowledge, is 75. And as soon as the whole train is on the main track, we can apply power to accelerate to 75 miles. And this is the beautiful south of this part of the track. You can see that the line here is only 2 tracks, so no more fast track, slow track, just 1 track between about 3 bridges in Brighton. The 4-track layout we will get back later. First we have to make do with this twin track. .90 speed limit went up to 90. This is the Gatwick Express. A very high bridge here. More bridges, and then we are going into a tunnel. If I am not mistaken, it is that super sweet tunnel with that castle-style front on the other side, though. Not on the side that we are entering, but on the other side. If I remember, I will have a look at it with the external camera when we are going out of the tunnel. No, no, dogs, no, no. So what happened now, I was playing around with the service indicator and I could not acknowledge the vigilance. So we got a penalty brake. Nice to see that. We have to bring the train to a complete stop if something like that happens. Then I can acknowledge. Then I can release the brakes again. Sometimes it takes a bit until the brakes go to 0 again, and you just have to wait. Tell the dispatcher, don't worry, it was just because I was with the cursor out of the train game in my OBS. But unfortunately we lost some time to get to Haywards Heath. So again, this is the tunnel with the castle-style entrance on the other side. We're closing in on that entrance now. Here a bit of glitch in the matrix. So, here, the castle-style entrance. Whoops! The camera fell through the floor. We don't want to see that. Better go back into the cab. See? If I have my mouse cursor in the game, then I can just turn off the vigilance beep. So now first we run through all the stations here on the southern part of the line. Hassocks and Purley and whatever the names are. Until we get close to Haywards Heath. And then we will hopefully see a red light with 2 white dots, like I explained in the beginning of the stream. Somewhere around here there is actually a junction to some arcane place where you can spawn on foot, but where no services are going in this DLC. I don't know why this came into the DLC. Maybe there was some idea for it that did not get put into real existence. But I like it if things like that are in a DLC. Oops. Slowing down to see this little station building that is like a bridge across the track. So, are we getting yellows already? No. Here you can see the banner repeater, not the 3-way one here because it is white, although the corresponding signal is green. And now there's only 1 more mile until we get to the approach Haywards Heath point, and we are getting a double yellow. That means the second signal starting from here is red. Hopefully it still is. No, it is definitely. But maybe the white lights are already on. But we will see. With my vigilance penalty brake, I might have spoofed it a bit. Now I'm obviously very fast because I wanted to see that. Can't see the signal now, but usually you should never be so fast passing a yellow. You can do it if you know there is enough room, but sometimes the signals are very close to each other, and then passing a single yellow with 60 is a hazardous thing to do. While we are approaching the yellow, You can see it is still yellow. Red, of course. It is still bright red, and now you saw that the dispatcher turned on the 2 white dots on the left side of the red and the indicator, and that allows us to pass the red signal with caution, go to the left, on a track that is already occupied by another train. Again, as far as I know, there is no absolute limit to the speed that you can go on a signal like this, but you always have to be prepared to stop your train in front of an obstacle. So, a bit like restricted in the US. But since we can see where we are going and that there is no obstacle, and since there is 40 allowed for the left, we can actually try to get to our location in the specified time. And there is the train that we are supposed to couple to, and this is why the signal stayed red. So, very slowly, very carefully. Stopping on location and opening the doors. So, first people are supposed to leave. The name of our service changes here. Game is telling us to wait until 7:10. You can see that the PIS board tells people that we are 1 minute late, but we're not. And now we just couple up to the train in front of us. So I don't know if in Great Britain there is a procedure that you have to stop before you couple to the other train. In Germany they do that. And coupled with the automatic couple system. You can shut this train down, turning the headlights off, getting the handle into brake 3. Oh, they just want us to open the doors from this cab. Alright. Then we can wait until the low passengers thing happened, and then this service is over. But we want to stay on this track here, turn it off, master key off, and isolate all the security systems in this train so that they don't interfere, because we will be driving from the other train. So, good people of the south, let us catch this train. Lady. Gatwick Express on the other side. This is our cab that we want. Okay, sister, you can leave that to us. Thank you very much. You have been relieved. Let's see. Lights are already set. Somehow she managed to drive without master. Self-test. All good. All set up. But the only thing, I mentioned it in the beginning, we have to change this to 8. Doesn't really make a difference. This is just a means of remembering or reminding us that we have an 8-car train now. Since we do not have a roadrunner system, we always need to know how many cars we are towing. We see it on the display here as well. We have 2 trains, 4 cars, 8 cars altogether. See that the PIS system says London Victoria. That's good. So 7:14 is our departure time. Let's see. The Gatwick Express, I think, is going in the same direction. Will be interesting to see who gets precedence, who can go first, because we are on a siding here. We have to go back to the main track, and this main track is the same track that the Gatwick Express is supposed to use. So normally you should think the express service takes precedence. Now you can hear the Gatwick Express beeping. Well, we got a green here, at least. Well, we can start. And the Gatwick Express gets started as well. So I deliberately wait a bit so that the other one can get into a position where we can see it from our cab. Can see its shadow, can see the express. And now we are coming. Let's see what the signaler will do. It stops the express and we can go. Thank you very much. We are on a 70 siding here, so no problem. We can just go ahead. And the express service has to wait for us. Going back on the main track here. And as soon as the train has cleared the switch, we can go to 90. So full throttle. Here's the 90 sign, so that we don't forget it. And now we're in for a high-speed ride home to London Victoria. If you see banner repeaters like those on a forked post, then obviously they are for the diverging route and the straight route. So you know what to expect on both of them. This is the signature bridge that we are running over now. Just beautiful. And we have still some room to accelerate to the 90s. I hope you can still understand me even though the dogs are barking and skittering around on the floor. Coasting board, the white diamond on the stick. And I think we're closing into the next tunnel. More or less, at least. Hitting the 90. Yeah, that is this tunnel. That is not really a tunnel, it is just a wider bridge for this station here. Another Gatwick Express coming from the opposite direction. And now we are heading for the tunnel. I always know it because when we are passing this power station next to the signals, then we will soon be in the tunnel. And what I also know is that at the end of the tunnel there will be a restriction to 80 that we mustn't miss, and there will not be any warning for it. So let's just slow down a bit. Here, just at the exit of the tunnel, the 80 sign. You can see a three-way banner repeater here telling us that the next signal is green. And we cannot see it, but we can see now. And let's watch out when the 80 restriction ends. And if I remember correctly, it is here under this rounded bridge. So with 80 and 90, our 8-car train has passed the sign quite fast, so that it is at any rate safe to accelerate. We have to stop at Gatwick, platform 4. Platforms are most of the time numbered beginning from the left to the right if you look at London Victoria. So if you're running from Brighton to London, it is from left to right. You can see on the left side that we got the other pair of tracks back. So now we are back in our fast track, slow track scenario. Those are the siding at Three Bridges and the yard area around Three Bridges. We will be passing the station soon. We're getting a double yellow, single yellow? No. It is green. This is Three Bridges station. And now the approach to Gatwick. We will see some planes up in the air coming in for a landing in Gatwick. And I have been told that the train station at Gatwick Airport is one of the least pleasant stations in the United Kingdom because it is so crowded, they say. In the game it actually looks nice a bit. Starting to slow down because we are good in the timetable. And applying a bit more brakes. So that we are not too fast when we hit the platform. 30 to 25. Even with those long platforms like here in Gatwick. This is the marker for us. No, it's not actually. It should be a different marker for 8-car trains. Here it says 10 to 12 and we're just 8 cars. Okay. Well, if there is not a different one, then we just assume that the game knows what it is doing when it puts us here.
Are no smoking areas. Please do not smoke until you have left the station premises. This includes e-cigarettes.
So, this is the heavily crowded Gatwick Airport station. You can hear the planes, you can see the planes. They're actually landing over there, beyond that little creek. Don't think that we can see them landing, but this is where they are going. And supposedly land. This is the place where people can put their cars when they fly away. Again, the Gatwick Airport Express. I think actually that most of those services are run by the same company, but divide their service into different brands. And it's kind of cute that they are so colorful, like green services, white services, blue and red. And the go. Oops. That's better. East Croydon, that's quite a way. Without a stop in between. So it is fair that we are on the fast track. On this platform on Gatwick there is no speed limit for the station. You just have to stop out of the 90 track limit and go back to the track limit of 90 afterwards. stop signs here are for, I don't know. There is no station at all. Horley, this is, I think. There are a very rare number of services in the DLC that stop at this station instead of Gatwick. And this is the chill part here. There's part of the track in both directions. You can play half asleep. Only a few changes in speed limit. Be careful not to overspeed when you're going downhill. But apart from that, it is quite hypnotic. If you want to have more sound of the rolling stock, let's open the windows. What's the name of the station? I always forget it. It's something like Strenton or... no, it doesn't say. Because we are on the fast track and you can only stop there when you are on the slow track. Just like with Earlswood, that is up ahead, I think. What we need to know is that at Earlswood there is a reduction in speed limit and in allowed speed to 80 again, so we mustn't miss that. Only for a short stretch until we are in the tunnel. But it is okay to wait until we actually can see the station and then let's coast. And maybe apply the brakes a little bit so that we can coast down. To 80. This is Earlswood Station. Those are the brakes. And at the signal there is the speed limit. We've reached the point again where we separate the two tracks. The fast line will go in the tunnel to the right. The slow line on the left will go through the hills and to Redhill, where we earlier diverged to Reigate. 90 track limit as soon as the train is in the tunnel. Let's assume that's the case now. We can bring our speed back to 90. A race part here between the two tunnels on the fast lane. If you look at it at the map, you can see that the two lines are not so far apart from each other. But nevertheless, both have their own track. And this is a feature that's always nice to have in a DLC. think we're already going in for the next tunnel. This signal is already at the entrance to the tunnel, and that is the case. No, it is not the tunnel entrance, this is the tunnel entrance. Don't forget the Vigilance. Tunnel is quite long, cutting through a hill, obviously. That usually is one of the reasons why you have a tunnel. And after the tunnel we will actually be going across that bridge that we saw earlier when we were traveling towards Reigate on the slow lane. Actually not now, you still have to wait a bit. Everyone has to wait. So... just going ahead a bit. And here is the bridge. And there is the slow lane. And we are running next to it. Going to the left again. And then we merge. Oh. Using the external cameras can cause severe speeding. But we did not get docked for it. Interesting. Maybe I just missed it. Yeah, looks like it. It's 95. Indicates that there has been a short stretch where we only got 15 points. We're still running in with 90 through the stations that are up ahead. Until we actually get a Morpeth board that is connected with an AWS magnet that warns us about a restriction in speed limit to 70 or 60 even. 60 I think. When we're approaching East Croydon. Can always check the banner repeaters if they are three-way ones or two-way ones. This one was obviously a two-way one because there is a green signal and still it showed us the open bar on a white background. So, one more station and then we get the Morpeth board. And it's magnet like now. See? Here's the board. To 60 we have to go on. And the magnet in front of it. And it's only 1.8 miles to East Croydon. I think behind this tree that comes dangerously close to our cab, woof, there is the 60. And then we know that at the second signal bridge we have to go down to 45, and since we are ordered by the sign with the indicator to go to the left, we know from our track knowledge that we have to drop the speed to 30 on the diverging line. This time probably not a thing for flashing yellows, because the 30 reduction does not start at the switch but after it, like here. What did I do with my external camera? I was showing bridges. Here there is a speed sign halfway the platform. We have to remember that when we start the train after the stop, that in a short while we can accelerate to 45.
Security personnel
East
patrol
Croydon.
the station 24 hours a day.
Can explore the station a bit because we are very much on time. Security cameras. Wow, it's crazy how difficult it is to generate the illusion of a busy station if you cannot actually put as many trains and people in the simulation as there are in the real world. But I think they are doing a really good job with it. I also like this over pristine, clean look of the game. So, what was our speed? It was still 30 until the whole train has passed the middle of the platform where there was the 45. So just accelerate moderately to the 30 and then to the 45. There is a 60, so we can go back to 60 as soon as we're past there. Since we're at 40 at the moment, we can just full throttle on, because the train will have passed the sign until we get close to the 60. This is the station now from the opposite direction, where we had to switch from the fast train, from the fast line to the slow line when we were traveling from London to Reigate. But first, another bridge. This time the bridge that leads to Selhurst Depot, what is on the right. And then there are actually some nice services connected with it. They had a bit of a derailment issue when I last tried to play them. Don't know if they have been fixed, but it's definitely worth to explore them. At the beginning of the station here there was an increase to 70. You have the platform as a marker as soon as you are past the platform here. 8 cars have passed the platform. And you can accelerate and then coast with 70. Clapham Junction is next, and this is already almost in London Victoria. So if you can go without a stop on the fast lane, doing your 90 miles here, you're actually quite fast. The 70 limit here goes almost until we reach Clapham Junction. There will be a reduction to 60 then, but not before we get very close. Here the banner repeaters are 3-way again. We're approaching a green one. So after this station here, there will be another junction, a line coming in from the left, and the 70 still holds true. No. 3-way, you see the 2 half circles. Here the junction coming in. 70 is still through for us here at the side. From my track knowledge, I know that the 60 will not be before this wall on the left side is over. This wall will be over at some point, and there will be a lower wall, and when the lower wall is over, then there will be a bridge, and at the bridge there will be the 60 sign. Again, no warning, no morpeth board. I need to know that. So the wall is over, a lower wall starts. That green signal was a bit hidden in the trees. Now the lower wall ended as well, and then there is a signal, and after the signal I turn to the left, and then there will be the bridge, and at the bridge is the 60 sign. after the bridge here. Those yellow signs with the black strikes on it are for Sendite trains, so that the Sendite trains know where to put the Sendite. 3 strikes tell you, caution, there will be a Sendite area soon. 2 strikes say you have to apply Sendite now. 1 strike, you're done applying Sendite. And Sendite is some stuff that you put on the tracks to make them more adhesive, so that you are less prone to get wheel slips. I'm not entirely sure if this is actually a thing in the game when we get Train Sim World 2, and there are more tricks with weather having an influence on the driving. It would be nice. So far, after my experience, only snow actually alters the characteristics of the track in the game. Not rain, not wind, but snow does. On snowy tracks you definitely have less adhesion and traction than normal. But rain, no. Leaves don't exist. Obviously. What I'm really looking forward to in Train Sim World 3 is the dynamic weather. When it starts raining, it stops raining, fog, stuff. That should be cool. Coming to Clapham. On platform 12, that means we have no speed limit, just have to stop. Platforms, I think 14, 15, they have a 20 limit that you must not miss. But here on the fast track we don't have a speed limit in the station. Reverse it to neutral, brakes fully applied, doors can be opened. And here you can read a lot of complaints about this station being like a ghost station in the game, while in real life it is one of the busiest stations in the United Kingdom. And those, I think, are limitations that you just have to accept. You cannot simulate like 30 trains that are standing around here. As it is really great how much traffic there is in this DLC on this long route. We have to wait half a minute more, and then we can go on the last leg towards London Victoria Station.
May I have your attention, please? Closed circuit television and remote video monitoring is in use at this station for your personal safety and security.
Don't worry, dogs. We'll be soon in London Victoria, and then we can go for a walk. So we're still in the 60 limit, but we get warned, moped board, about an incoming 45, so we won't be able to chase this train. But I'm quite sure this train will have to stop at Battersea Park, so there is no chance that this train can be in London before us. .45. Here. This view we have seen from the other side already when going to Reigate. This area is really nicely made. It actually looks like a big city, even if there are not that many trains on the Diverging and other tracks. So, bro, I see someone stop at Battersea Park, don't I? See you later. So, what's in for me? Double yellow. At the end of the bridge, I have to be at 40. And then double yellow means the one on the entrance to London Victoria will be at red. So I don't need to overdo it. I can just coast a bit and enjoy the view. That was the AWS for the single yellow. So, okay, that was the godmother of a lag. Closing in on the red. Always a good idea to just slow down to a very slow speed and let it coast in case it switches to yellow, so that you don't have to come to a complete stop. But unfortunately the signal does not want to switch. If we have to wait on a red signal, we have to put on the driver's remembrance A apparatus, I don't know, something like this. It's just a marker, you push it so that if your attention goes somewhere else and then it goes back to your train, you get reminded, oops, there was a red in front of us when I was last thinking about the track. And then, as long as this is set, you can't use any controls. This sign here, this diamond with the X, is a sign that you can only understand if you know that in former times drivers always needed to call a signaller and remind him that they are still waiting and standing at a red signal, so that the signal man does not forget about their existence. That was called Rule 55, and this sign just so shows that you are exempt from that rule. You don't have to call him. And the X means it is not a good idea to get out of your train to use the trackside telephone to call the signaller. So just stay in your train and wait. We will be aware of your existence here. And now all we have to do is to get our train back to London Victoria. We have been shown we are going to platform number 17. If you're driving German trains normally, the white 17 on top of the signal would suggest to go 170 kilometers, what you obviously cannot do without LZB in Germany. But the white number in the UK indicates that you're going to platform number 17, what we're just doing now. And this is where we started at the beginning of the stream, I guess. 17, or was it 16? Maybe it was 16. Because it was on the other side that I got to the train. So, the end of the track is closing in, and we're bringing our train to a soft and easy stop. And here we are, all set and done. Door unlock, reverse it to neutral, brakes are set. And I think that's it for tonight, for the service. We have to wait for the passengers to be done with boarding, and then I can close the doors and log off for today. Don't even have to close the doors. All I need to do is to log off. But I will close the doors. This is not my way of doing things. Doors are closed. Shut down. Well, maybe close the door first too, before it does not work anymore after turning off everything here. Lights off. And isolate the stuff. You never know what happens to the train. The next driver will have to turn it on again, even though in real life it will be turned on and stay on most probably all the time. That's it. Maybe what we can still do is turn off the lights. It does not make sense because the train is still in use, but here if you press the aux off button for a couple of seconds, it should turn off. Yeah. Lights have gone off. Doors still working? Yes, still working. Okay, folks. Thanks a lot for bearing with me, joining me on this ride to Reigate and then back to London Victoria, starting at Preston Park in this super beautiful, complex and enlightening DLC. Have a good night and see you next time.